All right, let's catch up when it comes to my training. And hopefully along the ways, you can pick up some nuggets that can help you out when it comes to your bodybuilding. So I'm primarily here today because you know it goes when things are going well, you want to talk about it. And my bodybuilding is going well. The RDL has always been one of those lifts for me. When things are clicking globally, when it comes to my bodybuilding, this thing moves. So yeah, all the moving parts that go into being a successful bodybuilder seem to be going pretty well right now. On this day, I thought I had 425 for like a set of 4, maybe, because that's what I did the week before, and it was pretty hard. But I got to moving it. I'm like, no, I got more. Then I did this, and I'm like, no, I think I got more. Ended up hitting a set of 465 for 4 reps, which is 20 pounds away from a lifetime PR. And I was probably like 30 pounds heavier when I did hit that. Some things to go over when it comes to the RDL. So for me, I like to have a closer stance compared to most folks. That's just because I'm not trying to bias a whole lot of adductor here. I want it to be primarily glutes, hamstrings, and yes, some erectors are going to be involved in there, although they're not really moving through a dynamic fashion. Some people with RDL like the more of the duck, slightly wider stance, which is fine. Just know that, hey, there's going to be a little bit more adductor involved there. I don't kind of arch my lower back. I think it's a passive and safe way of doing it, but when I'm braced, ribs, like everything in my torso is just stacked, I just feel so much stronger throughout my lower extremities. And guess what? The strongest lifters in the world, this is how they do it. They kind of stay in that neutralish area and do a lot of work from there. It's just a stronger position to be in, and everything below the waist just feels so much more alive and connected. But again, like the arch back, probably not a bad way to start, but eventually, I think stacked in a more neutralish position is the way to be. I've been doing a lot of myo reps for my, which if you haven't heard of, I don't know where you've been, but they've really helped me keep, stay on top of my training when it comes to the duration of sessions, right? Again, as a new father, and I've said this many times, like my training windows are just a little bit more limited after, like I can't just be there all day, and myo reps really help with that. Pausing, like we always do, 2-ish second pauses, and especially again for high calf people, this really helps. But the myo reps have been a fantastic way to get a lot of good work in when it comes to especially smaller muscle groups, single joint movements such as this. But yeah, so everything's going well. I think upper body work's coming along. Glutes, hamstrings are going well. The only place I've had some issues is, so a few months back, I did strain my my erector, and I knew it was going to be like a 2-3 week thing. I'll be good. However, I didn't realize that, I guess my hips were a little tilted, and then I was leg pressing, and what took place was, well, when you're leg pressing with tilted hips, all of a sudden, like the head of the femur just jams into the hip, and bro, like just like a guitar riff, like a solo of like electric guitar of like pain turned on, and I had to put it away. And I've been dealing with that ever since. So my right side feels a little unstable. This is my quad day. Usually I'll start off with hamstrings. Shout outs to John Meadows. He got me really giving this a go. And just do some hard work here. In this case, again, myo reps, and then I'll get into my squat pattern. And when you see my squat pattern, it looks a little funky, but again, I'm limited right now. You will see a lot of knee flexion, which is one of the reasons that I like to perform my hamstring curls before. It just gets a lot of blood flow, especially like back here, and it just feels like your knees are warmed up in a way that isn't fatiguing the squat pattern, and the little ball of blood that you develop back there almost creates, I guess, more advantageous dimensions and more like a comfy pillow in which to have this very knee dominant squat pattern take place. So almost any time that I'm getting into some real aggressive knee flexion, I'll perform hamstring curls before. So this is the movement. So first thing to note, you can't really see it here, but like my hips are not, I'm not flexed. I'm like pretty like extended. This puts the glute in a position where it can't do a whole lot. So if I'm trying to do something very quad dominant for leg presses, I try to not have a setup where my torso is lifted, but as flat as possible. And this machine lets me adjust that. Obviously the foot position, I think that part weirds people out. It's a lot more stable than you think. And I've been doing a lot of work on my toes, not necessarily to this extent, but I have over the years. So I feel very stable. I'd say this is probably, to me, it feels more stable than a free weight squat. So yeah, it looks a little goofy, looks a little unstable, but I feel quite stable. And again, I've trained on my toes quite a bit, but most importantly, it limits the amount of load that I can use. And on my right side, it just feels a little unstable. It's getting better, but you're still gonna see that there is a difference. This is the injured side, so I start with that side, and then the other side just kind of follows. I am performing integrated partials here, so like half rep at the bottom and then a full rep, and then it keeps repeating itself. But yeah, you can see that on this side, I have to think a little bit more as performing the leg press. But then when I get to the other side, you're gonna see I just like blast through it like very efficiently. So yeah, that's a big part of coming back from an injury. Is crazy. It was the lumbar thing, but it ended up, affecting something else completely different. But yeah, a lot of it's just like trusting your body again. And I've been able to work it back with minimal setbacks. I did have one day where, I tried to go a little too hard, a little too early, and I don't want another one of those, because right now I'd say this leg is at about 80%, and then the left leg is at full 100. There is a little atrophy in that leg, but I think a lot of it, like 2 weeks of like pretty even training between both legs, will completely fix that. But yeah, that's just how it goes, man. Like you train hard, at some point something's gonna happen, but as you go through these things, it's funny, you just remember that your body's this adaptive machine, right? That's what it does, like legit, that's what it does. When you train, you eat your protein, you eat your calories, you rest up, and then you come back for that session next time, and you're better. So healing of injuries work through those same mechanisms. Basically, they just take a lot longer is all. So yeah, this leg, I'm just blasting through the work, but it was, I think I have 2 plates on each side. And the first week back, I remember I couldn't even get into like full range of motion on that injured side. Haven't gotten any professional help when it comes to it, because it's a very straightforward thing. It seems to be at this point. But I do have resources out there. I do have people who are there to help me when something, is a little bit more than what I can handle. On this day, we also do some extra arm work. This Nautilus machine, amazing. We don't get to do a whole lot of tricep work with like these built-in constraints to stabilize you. There's many ways of doing it. Like you can do it on certain, you can do it with daisy chains. Ben Yanes does that a lot. You can do it with functional trainers as well. But this is it's just so ready to go in there. So the tricep isn't super stretched, but again, this is good and plenty, and it's right there. And I can superset this with, I think I'm supersetting it with calves on this particular day. So love this machine. I know that when things are going well on this machine, usually there's a notable difference in my triceps. So sometimes, again, those personal anecdotes, like they matter. Like it's not just about like what is optimal on paper. It's like what has been tried and true when it comes to you. Myo reps again. And yeah, I think sometimes, man, we can get so stuck on finding that perfect movement that, like per what definitely makes sense on paper, is the most optimal movement for that body part. But I'd say just as important is probably finding movements that you can find yourself progressing with quite, predictably. The way I like to word it is like movements, it feels like it's you against the weight, not you against the weight against your body, basically. You could kind of see a little bit of the quad atrophy on this side, but it'll get better. Like 2 weeks of good training, they'll kind of more or less be where they need to go. And besides quads, not that they couldn't be better, but I do think there was other areas we needed to prioritize a little bit more, primarily upper back thickness, which has been going well, chest in general, which has been going well too. So I'm not too mad at it. If anything, you gotta see the silver lining in these things, right? Still performing this movement, and this is pretty heavy. This is 130 on the 1-to-1 ratio side, which means that on like most stations where you would perform triceps, this would be 260, because it's 1-to-1. Most cables outside of pull downs and like the row stations, they tend to be 2-to-1. So whatever weight is on there, because of the pulley system, it's actually half. So getting real close to PR territory. Decline press, again, I'm messing with that because my chest isn't very barrel chested compared to some folks out there, and this just puts me in a position where, again, it's a synthetic barrel chest, so it's easier to stretch around my own rib cage. Another thing I'm trying to do is like minimize my J curve and press things like right over here, like the same rules that would apply for the back of the torso, right? It's like what direction you're pressing in matters much in the same way as like what direction are you pulling in. So I'm trying to actually stay out here as opposed to, because of old powerlifting habits, I try to perform that little J curve, which just means that the weight's kind of coming up this way and actually stacking on top of my shoulders a little bit more. You can see though that on my later reps, I do kind of lose control of that. So it's work in progress, because again, I haven't pressed this way in years. Actually, I think when I first started, naturally that's just kind of where I ended up. And you know how it goes. Sometimes you go back and you're like, man, what I was doing before made a whole lot more sense. So I still fight with that, but yeah, I'm trying to basically press the load, like keep the load floating on top of my chest, as opposed to like trying to get the anterior delts involved. Right at those like gnarly sticking points. I think, man, this next rep, I think I could have gone it, but since I have one more week before I deload, I was like, you know what, I'll let it be. But overall, pretty happy with this movement. Technically, it's a new movement because I've dumbbell pressed, but it's been mostly flat. So, we got 9 on that first set. Third set, the last one you saw, I think I got 5 or 6. Sometimes that first set does enough where, the ones after are a little bit more just tampered with. And as an athlete with a good amount of mileage everywhere, sometimes I'm not too mad when the first set, does a lot of the polishing in the sets afterwards, just kind of sweep the corners. All my pulling, same thing. It's full range of motion into those lengthened partials. This movement right here, my God, like is probably one of the movements that's done the most for my delts, just because like a lot of folks, again, we never really get to put these in like a truly lengthened position. Again, cable, wrist height, a lot of people will do across the body, but it's the cable's coming from down low, and that's basically going to, you're still going to stretch the muscle, but you're not loading it where you want to. The way this movement should feel, it's like legit, it's like that stretch, like when you're trying to stretch your delts, like that is what you're basically going for. And it's one of those movements where you're gonna have to be extra patient. Little things that wouldn't typically be considered progressions are what I look for. Things such as like keeping my torso still, which again, when you're a decently strong person, it's very easy to kind of just do this and think it's not doing a whole lot, but it's probably doing more than you think, especially when the load you're picking and the exercise you're picking is like just for this little piece of deli meat, right? So little technique PRs, especially important when it comes to slow movers like this. But I'm happy with how things are going. I'm like 172, 173. The plan is to lose another 4 pounds and then kind of hold, but also kind of gain, I guess gain very slowly. This diet right now, I should reach sub 170 somewhere towards the end of December. And then, yeah, we start eating enough, at least, maybe a little bit more. Gain no more than 3 pounds between January and May. Prep starts, and it's great, right? Because I'll have like 13, 14 pounds to lose and 20 weeks in which to do it. You're not chasing anything. It's all coming to you, right? You can, you can kind of stalk the contest prep conditioning as opposed to, blowing your cover and like chasing after that thing. That's a game I played before and usually doesn't end up the way you would like. So yeah, things are going well. I am healing up. Some suboptimal barbell curls. Literally, I just performed this movement for funsies because I one set on this day just because I have some old PRs that I just want to see how close I can get at a lighter body weight, and there's rich history with this movement. But yeah, next check-in, I'll have some physique updates for you guys. I think I'll be looking pretty good, very different compared to how we started this cut. But hey, all in all, things are great. They're trending in the right direction, and it looks like we're going to have a very strong closing chapter when it comes to 2024. And hopefully that trend, that momentum carries us into next year and into the prep.